All right, we're continuing on with class 21. Here is video 3. Is it video 3? I think it might be video 4. It's video 4. So what I did is I took it early on in the semester. I took example 4.1, which was just a 4-bar where you found the position analysis. And I added a coupler extension onto it. And I chose a geometry so it had like kind of this interesting little flattened 8. And then I also 3D printed it so that we could actually watch it in action and we could compare with a video analysis to see what it does. So that's kind of neat. So I thought, well, let's also, because we could potentially measure the torque of this motor, let's make a 3D model out of the thing. So I haven't gotten around to measuring the current of the motor and then turning that into torque, but that's on my agenda, I swear. Here is the single point MATLAB. All right, so here we get the initial information. And I got this, by the way, I believe I've showed this in a video, this one for a single point in video 20. I think it might have been my last one in video 20. So you could see that a little bit closer. But I got this information from a lot of it from MATLAB. But I also measured the pieces, the 3D pieces myself, and I think I overrid the mass in. I said MATLAB, but I meant SolidWorks. I overread the mass, overall mass in SolidWorks, but I kept now the resulting mass moment inertia. I kept that, so that should have played nicely with the geometry, at least as an estimation for where the center of gravity is, and also the mass moment of inertia about the center of gravity. So anyway, these are the main things that were taking place in the static one, where we look for one plus spot. Oh, actually, I don't think so. I'm breaking away from the trend I was doing. I apologize. I forgot all about that. Here is just the code itself, right? So here I've started up with the necessary information, geometry, and mass properties. Here's this external force, which I say in this case is not on this thing. So it doesn't have a value for orientation right there. But if you needed it, this would be, and this is the location where it's applied right there, right? This is also something needed. So like in a homework problem, this would be one of the homework problems I did a Hwecken where I asked to put a weight onto the end. Well, that weight would be a constant force. Although the mass is going to be there and it's going to be dynamic force, but it's also going to have gravity is going to be pulling that force always oriented in the downward direction. So you have to overcome that as part of the torque. So that would be necessary. So you need to figure that out up in here in terms, and then look through the code a little bit just to make sure that you're getting the placement of that force correct. Because it's going to be probably the same placement as I have with this AP, this distance from the point of the end of crank 2 to that interesting point P. On a Hwecken, this will be the del will be, it should have been a beta, or is it del? I think it was del here. It should have been del. Will be 0. And then this length for whatever it is for the Hwecken. All right. I made a string of time. I put 1/400ths, mostly because it's only 0.75 long. I think I'm trying to match a video of the thing in operation. I'm running at a constant 238.7 RPM. Yeah, so that's probably one of the faster motors. And then I started at 0. Okay, and then I make some zeros for some variables to populate. Here is my kinematics to get my theta 2, and my omega 2, that should be the same value everywhere because alpha 2 is equal to 0. And then I got my initial positions here by way of, the law of cosines and the law of sines to be able to get my initial theta 3 and initial theta 4. So check those out. But I also noted that pi minus the law of sines, because this law of sines gives us an interior angle. Theta 4 is an exterior angle. I believe this is my initial location. So I'm going to get my, oh no, what's going on here? Let me see. All right, so this is, there's a for loop up there. That's just for the kinematics, right? The orientation. This just appears to me to be able to get the theta 2, right? I guess so. Interesting. Yeah. So I guess I just got theta 2. It seems like an unnecessary step because I just calculated up here. I think I did this because it was just easy to do. So I don't necessarily need to do this next step because I already have a good starting position. Well, this is, well, no. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. We're in the for loop. This end right here, I should have lined that up with the while. That confused me. So this is the position vector. We're in for every single step. And then, so this is the Newton-Raphson to solve for every single step. I didn't do that initial position find because I could do it by hand, I guess you could say. I could find it by math, by law of cosine, law of sine. And then so inside the loop for every position, I get the position vectors, get the velocity and acceleration using Norton's equations 618 and 712 for a 4-bar. And then I also get the accelerations at point A. I don't need them at point B. I do get the accelerations at the centers of gravity. So I have to get each one. There's a couple of steps I don't have to do, by the way. There's the square root of some of the squares, and then the angle of them. I don't need the magnitude and angle at each step, but because I'm throwing it away anyway. So because I'm in the middle of a loop and I'm not storing it with like an index or anything. So I don't know why I'm even doing that. I probably could just shorten it by a couple lines by getting rid of it. We're still in a loop, so we put in the geometry information, and then here's the dynamic information, and we solve for the forces. And then I only kept the torsion. I could totally have kept all of the forces and all of the links, reactions at the links, but I only stored the torque at 1, 2. And then I'm not sure why I got rid of the last thing on all three things here, but I did. And then I was able to plot this torsion as a function of time, and there it is in SolidWorks. I got the same shape, and then you could kind of see there is the SolidWorks answer, and there is the MATLAB answer. They're pretty darn close. Little off in the MATLAB's a little less than which is kind of the opposite thing that we from one of the earlier example. But that's all right. A lot of it has to do with these parameters that we're choosing, and we're trying to represent a physical piece that has size and shape, and we're just trying to lumping the masses into one spot and trying to get that to represent the real thing. And whereas we believe that should be the case, and we should be able to, there isn't anything that says that's a rule that it has to be represented in that way. I'm not saying that that's why we're necessarily off, but I'm just saying it's great when they match up, but it's not unexpected when they don't 100% agree, because it is a lumped mass approximation. And I don't believe you could, I mean, someone might argue that SOLIDWORKS is a lumped mass approximation. And I don't know if I would really argue with them. I would say, yes, probably is. But it's a different sort of lumped mass approximation compared to what we're doing in MATLAB. All right, so this will be my last example. I'll do this in another video, and we'll talk soon.